G'day, welcome back to another episode of Blokes and Their Balls. It's yours truly, the captain of the ship, the man in charge, Bradley J. Drybra, the main man here at A Lot to Talk About. I get to say that. Here at the A Lot to Talk About network, and really we're riding a little bit shy of the regular crew today. I've got to my right, your left, the resident sports guy of A Lot to Talk About, Mr. Jed Wells, Wellsy, Undertaker, a few names.
Very nice. You working on the list very slowly?
Yeah, slowly but surely. The list is building. It took us some time to get a nickname for you. Wellsy was the obvious one. It's a typical Australian route.
Yeah.
Just take Wells and put the SY on the end. Works for anything.
That's how it's done, really.
100%. So, look, I think we should address the elephant in the room. Or the lack thereof.
I don't think he's an elephant.
Yeah, lack thereof. You know what I mean? The monkey in the room. We'll address the monkey that is not in the room. Duff's on the site again today, on the job site. He's been working hard lately. That's one thing I'll give him.
He reckons. All I'm saying is it's a bit of a coincidence to me that the Cardinals lose to the Rams, and then he suddenly can't get off work. So
That's really what I'm getting at here. And it makes me wonder. I'm just going to put this to you as a question. Is this the downfall of the crystal ball?
I think it's too soon to tell.
It's too soon to tell. Well, there's early signs. Early signs that things aren't moving in the right direction.
But, you know, he did just come off a very tough stretch too, so, you know.
He did. Can you remind me, what did the Rams beat the Cardinals by? Was it 9?
9? Yeah.
Yeah.
From memory.
See, the funny thing is, I believe we only beat the Jags by 7. Does that mean that the Jags are a better team than the Cardinals? Numbers are numbers, right?
Look, I'm not saying no.
Yeah, numbers are numbers. But yeah, obviously the Duffman, we love having him here in the studio when he is. The banter's always great. And the man's working hard at the moment. He's hustling away. So credit to him. He's asked us to keep the ship afloat this week in his absence. And no doubt he'll be back for our next ep. But I'll pass it over to the main man, Jed Wells. Run us through the week. So
as we do, we start every week with our play of the week. Short little 15 seconds. Deliver it. Don't talk about it again. Just the best part, the best sports thing we've seen each week. For me, this week was pretty obvious. It was the end of the OKC New Orleans game. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander hits a big 3 with, I think 4 seconds left or something like that. Everyone's gone wild. They can't believe it or whatever. Devontae turns around, Devontae Graham, shoots it from three-quarter court, goes 15,000 miles in the air, drops in for the win.
Fucking crazy, right?
I would love to feel whatever that feels like in that moment, to win a game in that fashion.
You know what it is? It reminds me of great 15-second play of the week, by the way.
Gotcha.
It really reminds me of any time Steph's got the ball in that scenario, whether he's past half court or not, you never feel safe until you hear the buzzer.
Yeah.
If that ball leaves his hands before the buzzer, even if that guy was at under his hoop, it feels dangerous.
Yeah.
And there's just those couple of players in the NBA that can pull off something from anywhere on the court, really pull a rabbit out of the hat. And that was one of those moments.
All right.
For me, well, what a crazy weekend of UFC it was, and we'll get to that later. But Amanda Nunes, considered the greatest of all time as far as female mixed martial artists go, she falls. She started taking damage. She really started to panic, and you could see that she was panic striking and panic countering, and she went down. So Pena, the new king of women's fighting. Unbelievable. What a fight. Just unbelievably entertaining.
She called it too, Pena. She said, I'm going to come in there, I'm going to get her early, she'll freak out and I'll win it. And she tapped, and she didn't even look like she was in that much danger. I think it was the first time in a long time she's felt herself there.
Yeah, I think it was very much that stereotypical start to take a lot of damage on the feet, and then you sort of panic, and it's almost like what Connor done, against Nate.
Yeah.
You take that damage on the feet, you go to the ground for coverage, or you try to escape for coverage, you end up get your back taken, you're trying to get away. And I think at that point in time, a fighter isn't necessarily physically defeated, but it's more mental defeat.
Yeah.
And it's just they don't want to defend anymore. They're sort of out of the fight. And the crazy thing is, it reminds me so much of when Ronda lost the
Yeah.
championship belt. Looking back on that fight against Holly Holm, I remember actually backing Holly Holm.
Really?
Yeah, because I'd heard a lot about her kickboxing pedigree, and she was about $7 at the time, which was similar to Pena. But this time I really didn't see this coming because Amanda's been so good. But then it's funny because post-fight, and I'm rambling on a little bit here, but post-fight, I was saying to a couple of my mates, when I think about it and I look back, Nunes really built a hype when she beat Cyborg, right? But if you look at that fight, she took some punches too.
Yeah.
And she almost goes into this stage where she starts taking a few punches. And I'm no Amanda Nunes, I'm no dedicated fan that watches absolutely every moment of her fights, but I noticed in that fight her hands really started to drop and she was almost panic striking a little bit too.
Yeah.
But I think she was smart enough to catch Cyborg in that moment and do more damage. Where this fight, she was catching Pena, but she wasn't doing damage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, unbelievable win.
We'll have a bit more on that coming up later. And then just quickly, obviously we said Duff can't be here, but he has sent in his play of the week. And it's Aaron Donald getting the game-winning sack against Kyler Murray. He just said the better team won on the day, and it was great to see the defensive player of the year take out a sub-rate quarterback like
Literally
that.
quoted from Duff.
That was it. That was word for word. Alrighty, let's jump into it with some basketball. Start the clock for me, will you, Bradley?
Oh, a little bit behind here today. I didn't have the stopwatch ready, did I? Kind of like you this morning, eh?
Yeah. Look, you win some, you lose some.
Alrighty, the clock's on.
Alrighty, so jumping into NBA, and the top story of the last week is Steph Curry. We talked about him a bit just before, but he officially breaks the record for most threes in the NBA ever.
Yeah. You know what I love about the NBA? When that moment happens, they take that minute and everyone's like mid-game giving him the respect he deserves. Yeah. What an unbelievable achievement. And considering it's it's still early days in Steph's career. Like, I can see him playing for such a long time. Just unbelievable. He's such an athlete. He's such a classy human being. And, this year could be a big year for Steph Curry. Very much in championship contention. The all-time 3 record. And he's one of those top 2 or 3 guys in that MVP conversation. So Steph Curry is doing things right now in 2021-22 season. I'm excited to see how he continues to grow towards the end of the season. 100%.
And like you said, doing it quickly. Ray Allen, the guy that he passed, did it in, I think, 1,100 games. Steph got there in 700. So so I think it was 2,900-ish range.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him crack 4,500, 5,000, depending how long he can go for by the end of his career.
I have to ask, considering he's done this so early on, 700 games, so much longer in his career to perform and to continue to be this athlete, if he stays at the peak of his game for at least another 5-6 seasons, is he going to be spoken about in that conversation of GOAT?
I don't know if he'll ever get to the GOAT status, just because how his career went. The sort of first 5-ish years weren't amazing. He was injured for a bit. He wasn't doing much. But then it was really when he came on, he came on. He changed the game of basketball. What
are your thoughts on him versus LeBron? That conversation that fans have.
LeBron is
they're different
the GOAT
players.
Or the second GOAT.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I like Steph more. I've always been a big Steph fan. But I think it's undeniable LeBron, and as unfair as it is, a lot of it is just about Steph's 6'3", LeBron's 6'8". So LeBron can shoot really well, but he can also just dunk on people. He can body them in the post a little bit. He can...
Which is that's kind of the flashy basketball,
exactly.
Isn't it? The stuff that people want to see.
Yeah.
Fans love a Zion Williams because he can use that big body. Fans love a Shaq, but they're not exactly the most versatile players. And then they have those... everyone needs to change their game at a certain point in a career. I look at Steph and I think he's got a game that he can probably just maintain the rest of his career.
100%.
Because it is less physical than what some of the other guys are doing. But yeah, I fully get what you mean. There's a reason that guys like Bron and MJ are spoken about in that top 2. So, but look, all credit to Steph. He's making his own way in the game, and the game seems to be moving in his direction too.
In saying that though, I do think he will retire as a top 10 guy. I think he's probably right on the edge now.
Yeah.
And I think for me at least, I think he's the best point guard ever. A lot of people will say magic, but just in terms of what Steph has done for the game of basketball, what he's done himself, what he's still going to do, for me, Steph's the dude.
Power to him.
From a very positive story to a very negative one, the NBA is getting ravaged by COVID at the moment. There's something like 46 people across the league in different teams in COVID protocol. The Bulls had 10. They had to get a bunch of their games like moved or suspended. You've got a bunch of like the Nets, a bunch of the Lakers.
Fuck, speak of COVID, I'm choking on more water.
But yeah, I think a bit of a dire time for the league at the moment.
It's so hard, isn't it? Like, this was always going to be I guess this was going to be the draw card of this season in every sport, right? Is things can be going really good until COVID makes its way into a locker room. Yeah. And unfortunately, a few of those teams are struggling because of it. And I think there'll always be that asterisk on this couple seasons of each sport where we haven't really experienced too much of it in the Australian sport.
Yeah.
But I think in American sport with the NBA and the NFL, there'll always be that conversation of, was that team the best team? Or did they have the luckiest run with COVID? Yeah. Did they have the best circumstances to get to a championship position and keep their team healthy and on the park? So, you know, it's really sad to see, and I wish we could find a way to move around it, but unfortunately it looks like it's here to stay for a little while longer. And I think there's going to be an adjustment period of a few years until we figure out how to tackle this best.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the NBA has announced as well that the players, I think, unless you've been triple vaxxed, like you have recently been in the NBA.
Yeah, yesterday.
They're going back to doing like daily testing and increased mask wearing and stuff. They're trying to really like push everyone to getting that booster shot.
Yeah.
There was a discussion that was reported a few days ago that the NBA had considered asymptomatic players. They were just considering letting them play, which fucking just no one thought that through at all.
Yeah, because that doesn't make any sense at all. The difference between asymptomatic and sick is just a person-to-person thing, right?
Yep.
So, like, COVID will play its part differently in everyone's body. It's part of the reason why I'm triple vaxxed.
Yeah.
Like, someone with cystic fibrosis, I'm really healthy, but you kind of just don't want to run that risk.
100%, man.
So, you know, if you can, get that jab.
So, yeah. And then just a quick one. Over the last week, a big narrative, a big talking point that's come up is Nikola Jokic's MVP status, his season. A lot's been made about the fact that he is leading the NBA in every advanced stat pretty much. He's similar output, if not a bit better than last year.
Yep.
I've got a bit of pushback to that one personally. Like, I've seen a lot of guys like Zach Lowe on ESPN, a lot of people on Twitter that are writers saying like Jokic is the front runner for MVP. But the Nuggets are the 8th seed right now. The last 5-6 years, every single guy that's been amazingly productive on a lower seed, that's always been held against him. You think about Steph, you think about like LeBron when he missed, you think about Harden or whatever. The knock has always been like, yeah, they're doing well, but their team's not doing well, so how are they valuable? But it just seems like Jokic has fallen into this weird state where all the stats nerds, they just love him because he's getting like amazing PER and stuff.
So you're playing a year-on-year comparison there, right? As a fan of the game, you understand how it's worked in the past. But if you sort of go personal here and share your opinion, do you think a player's team position or team seed should be detrimental in their MVP race?
I think it's got to be a part of it.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think it should be like, oh, you can only win it if you're like a top 1 seed or whatever. Like, I understand that basketball is a team sport. But in saying that, at a certain point, if you're a dude that's like putting up 40 points a night, but your team's not winning any games, you're not that valuable. Yeah,
and that's a great point. And I think for maybe some of the Aussie fans of the pod here that don't watch too much NBA or NFL, our MVP equivalent in the NRL would be the Dally M medal.
Yeah.
And you look at a guy this year like Tommy Turbo who won that. He was almost the deciding factor for his team's success this year. Exactly. There was a clear correlation between his time on field and his time off field and how they performed.
Yeah.
And because of his performance, they made their way into a really competitive spot in the finals. And I agree with you. I think the best players have big impact and influence on their teams, even if their team isn't the best fit around them. So I think it's definitely got to be in the conversation. So at the moment, is he the favourite?
So it depends who you listen to. That's the thing. It's kind of...
Who's the bookie's favourite?
I think it might be KD or Giannis. or maybe
Okay.
so it's it's a really wide open year. It hasn't been this wide open in a long time, where Steph, KD, Giannis, Jokic, obviously they're all kind of neck and neck for it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Jokic won it last year, and I thought that was deserved because, again, the Nuggets weren't the number 1 seed, but they lost Jamal Murray, and they still worked. I think they were a top 4, maybe a 5 seed, and that's fine. If the Nuggets can get it together and start winning some more games, and Jokic is doing this, of course.
Yeah.
But, like, I'm not saying he's not helping them. You take him off that team, they're probably a lottery team.
Yeah.
But you look at last year, Steph was the scoring leader. He had one of his best seasons ever, but the Warriors were a play-in team. And everyone said, like, oh, he can't get MVP because they just weren't that good.
Yeah.
Which, as much as I love him, that's true. He shouldn't have got it because they were an 8 seed.
Yeah.
So, like, because, like, if you're going to start rewarding that, where do you draw the line of, like, oh, you put a guy on the fucking, like, Detroit Pistons, he averages 35 a night, give it to him. It's like, you're not influencing winning as much as you should be.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's my little rant on that one. Jumping over from the NBA to the NBL, there's only been one story everyone's been talking about, and that's Mitch Creek absolutely murdering Matthew Dellavedova.
So, you know what the funny thing is, right? I watched that clip back, and I think you sent it to our group chat. In the NBA, that happens fucking nearly every game, right? Someone gets fucking posted, and then they get fucking hyped. I think because we don't really see that all that much in the NBL and Australian basketball, and correct me if I'm wrong at any point throughout this, it's almost like it feels offensive.
A dunk of that caliber hasn't been seen in the league.
Yeah.
For a long time, if ever.
Yeah, and I think Delhi took a lot of offence to it. I think also, considering that Delhi hasn't had the best of starts to his NBL season, and maybe the fall from grace, like from not being that NBA guy anymore, and like remember like when the Cavs went on that run and Delhi was like
he was everywhere.
He was a big part of it. Everyone was talking about Delhi. He was the pride of Australian basketball. I think it's kind of been a fall from the top for him, and I think it's almost like that feels a little bit disrespectful when you're maybe not who you were or where you used to be. When you're lying on the floor and Creek standing over the top of you, just haven't posted you. So it obviously went nuts, and I'm all for it. Like you said though, basketball's not one of those sports where you're going to see people throwing punches, because that's going to cop weeks. Yeah. But I love it. I'm all for it. It's the theatrics of the game, and that's what we fucking turn on the NBL or the NBA to see, is these fucking amazing athletes do what they do best.
The thing with the dunk that made it look, like, I'm not saying it wasn't great, but what made it look better than it was is that it was Delhi. Because if it's a dude that is Mitch Creek's size, you might meet him at the ring, you might body check him a little bit. Delhi is like 5 inches shorter. He has no, like, I don't think he can touch the rim. But instead of getting out of the way, he jumped right into him. So he kind of like just jumped in the air to get dunked on. Do you know what I mean? He had no chance of contesting it.
Yeah.
If he turned around, Mitch just gets a cool looking dunk. But you get that photo now where it looks like Delhi's like jumping up, but in real life, he's jumping like this. Like, I don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah, it's almost like, just let that go, bro.
Exactly. Make a business decision.
Yeah.
Like, it's your second week in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
For sure.
Taking it a bit local now, the Hawks played again last night. They won in double overtime.
Yeah, we've heard that before, haven't we? Double overtime, baby.
So the Hawks are undefeated now. They're looking really, really fun.
The Hawks are back.
They are.
To be honest, I haven't turned on the NBL yet this season. Like, life's been a little bit crazy these last few weeks. I've barely watched any sport. I didn't even catch the fucking Rams-Cardinals game. I caught the last quarter of it. But, yeah, life's been crazy. But every time an NBL game goes down, it feels like there's some sort of action that I've missed out on. So I think the season looks really exciting. It's really exciting when your local team's doing well. And I love to get down to a few of the games here. You usually try to get to like 1 or 2 every year. So this year I might try to get to a few over the break, and really exciting. Hey, there's a good energy about it. Coach was actually downstairs here the other day having a brew. So, there's a good vibe around the local area for the Hawks this year, and I'm really excited for them. Hopefully they can keep undefeated for the rest of the season.
Well, that's the thing. Last year, they shocked everyone being like a really good team. They made the semi-finals and stuff. They come in this year in a position I don't know if they've ever been, which is like front runners. Like, they took their success last year. They didn't lose, or except for one, they didn't really lose any of their top guys, and they built on it and they added more talent. So it's a team that year on year is looking better and more consistent and has an actual shot.
You know what I think it is too? I think, like you said, last year they were a team where they weren't expected to do as well as they did, and I think that builds such culture in your squad where you go, well actually, even when we didn't have the signings, when we didn't have what was picked to be championship talent, we were able to pull it together and have a really good season. I think that gives you a little bit of fire in your belly, and it gives you a lot of trust in the coaching system and the way that you're playing.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been able, it's been the best building block for them this season. And shout out to my guy Dan Toski, the barber out of Blends there. He's been chopping all the boys up, and I think he's got about 4 or 5 of the Hawks stars on his roster, and he was there last night posting some clips at the game, and double overtime, at the not at the Snake Pit, at the WEC there, fucking unbelievable. That's what fans of the game love.
Yeah, just really good to see the boys doing well again. And then we saw earlier this week what was billed as a marquee game. The 2 biggest cities in Australian basketball, Melbourne, Sydney, thought it was going to be this mad clash. Sydney lost in one of the most shocking fashions I think I've ever seen.
Talk to me, what happened?
So at one point it was like 35-6 or 7 or something. I'll have to check, but I think their end score didn't surpass 50.
Holy fuck.
I think they had...
What's going on there?
I don't know, it was just shocking. Like, really, really bad.
That's a rough go.
Like, I didn't get to watch it. I just sort of checked the score. And it was one of those ones where I was like, it hasn't loaded yet. It's third quarter, but it's saying this. I kept refreshing and kept refreshing. And so they lost 89-47.
Holy shit.
They lost by 42
points. That's a proper fucking crucifixion.
Yeah, so in the first quarter, 34-5.
There's a...
Great note to end that one on.
Commey, yeah.
Hot take just quickly. I think the NBA... I don't think it will, but a hot take, I think it should. They got to suspend all play for a week. If they want their Christmas Day action, call it now. Send everyone home for a bit. Let them chill. Let these cases run their course. Hopefully you can sort of restart it a bit. Yeah,
we love fucking Christmas Day. Well, for us, Boxing Day, NBA. It's and the players seem to love it too. That's like a privilege to play on Christmas. I know the players get around it, so fucking give them the week off, baby. Let's get back nice and healthy. Chrissy week, little bit of turkey,
amen.
Little bit of chook on the table, bit of NBA in the background.
Need it. All right, let's fight.
Combat sports, let's go. Ding ding. Fuck, what a weekend.
What a weekend. So
UFC 269 was marketed and built as potentially the card of the year, and it fucking did not disappoint. I was I think in front of the telly at a mate's house by the last of the prelim fights, and I'm so glad I got there early because there was just so much fucking action. It was one of those weeks where there were a lot of like fights that were closely watched.
Yeah.
Like we sat there and we talked about last week some of those matchups, and we got some of them wrong. We did get some of them wrong. But I want to run you through a little bit of the action and what happened. We'll get to the main event in a minute, but I want to start with what was arguably one of the most exciting fights in a long time for Sean O'Malley against Pava. I'm not sure exactly how you pronounce his name. He's Brazilian. But it was definitely O'Malley's best competition.
Yeah.
So the thing for Sean O'Malley is the only real fight that he's had in sort of like really good competition with a great competitor was he lost due to that foot injury, right? So the question was always... Well, he can beat those unranked guys and he can really put a show on, but can he go up against the best? And this was the first competitor where we thought, 21 wins, 3 losses. This is going to be a test for Sean O'Malley. But he looks so good. He looks so clean. He looked like Sean O'Malley does. And it's great to see him step in there against a better caliber fighter, but not change his game. Yeah. So that was really exciting. And that was one leg that I had up on my multi because I had O'Malley by KO. This fight, fucking oath, I'm glad I was wrong.
Yeah.
We spoke about Cody Garbrandt and Kai Kara France, our trans-Tasman brother, and Cody's such a hard fighter to predict. He's been on a bit of a loss streak now, but he can knock any guy out, but he can get knocked out any fight too. Like, his jaw's a little bit glass these days, and Kai Kara France was definitely stepping up in competition as well. It was a very Sean O'Malley style step up. Yeah. But this time he was stepping up to a guy who's arguably still a contender for that belt. and he fucking performed. I'm so glad he did. He looked fantastic. He copped some shots himself. His chin looked strong. He continued to move forward, and just fucking beautiful knockout.
Yeah, I think he's definitely caught Cody on the way down, and he's just used him as a launch pad.
100.
I don't know where Cody goes from here, but sky's the limit for Kai now. He's one of the most exciting dudes.
Well, you know, Kai's throwing his hand up for that title shot. So, you know, we'll see what happens with that title fight coming up, and hopefully Kai's in there and in the mix for the next. Then we went on to Jeff Neal against Ponzinibio. I like Jeff Neal. I'm a big fan of Jeff Neal. I think for a long time he was marked as one of those guys in that division welterweight that could really test the top. He's a fantastic boxer. He's got a real boxing pedigree, and he's a tough fella. And he performed really, really well. He got that decision after 3 rounds. I think at times there's definitely a round there that went to Ponzinibio. I think it might have been the second round or the first round, but he just, I don't know if he's, you know, we look back on him being marked as one of those top guys. I don't think he is, just because I don't think he's aggressive enough in getting that finish. Like, against a guy like Ponzinibio, who isn't a top contender, I thought like he should have put his foot down a little bit more and made a statement.
Yeah.
But very classic boxer.
I got to admit, in terms of this whole card in the prelims, that was probably the one fight where I tuned out a bit, used it to go do some other... I don't know, I just feel like as much as they're big names, they're not the current big names. Yeah. I feel like you got a guy like Kai who's coming up against Cody, or an O'Malley. I would have built them a little bit higher. Yeah. Use that Neal as the first one for the diehard MMA fans to be like, that's our dude, and then you get into it.
Well, it's funny because
dead spot on for me at least. But I'm not I'll watch the big cards and stuff. But
well, that's a conversation we had between the few of us that were in the room watching. Is I don't know if they got the order of the card exactly right. There's probably 1 or 2 fights there that could have been moved around. Then we went into the co-main, and that was Amanda Nunes and Juliana Pena. And let me tell you, like we said at the start, my play of the week, what an absolute Barney of a fight that was. Round 2, 3 minute 26 in, Pena got the submission, and it was just she started taking damage. And I think against those fighters like Amanda Nunes, you got to take the dog to them. You know what I mean? You got to be willing to scrap. And I think quite often against those formidable champions, people with good chins and a little bit of I guess a little bit of pub brawler in them.
Yeah.
They seem to get the job done because they can go in and cop those shots on the way in whilst they're inflicting damage. And I think it's also something to be said that Amanda's not taken damage for a long time.
I was going to say that, like, in her last fucking who knows how long fights, she hasn't just won. She's dominated. She's controlled the ring. She's toyed with them, put him down, smiled at him, given him a hug. It's just been like a training session.
Yeah.
In the first 20 seconds, Pena got her right in the face, and she froze.
Yeah.
Her eyes got wide. She went, fuck, this is bad. And then, like you said before, she started panicking. She was throwing these fucking, like, haymakers. They weren't doing anything. They're just like noodles.
The penny punches, the helicopters, eh?
It's not
good.
Not
good. It's not what you want to see from a champion. And I think, no doubt though, Dana White probably fucking rubbing his hands together because
they'll run that back in.
That's
like
a run
6
back
months, I
for sure. And I think really, if you look at what Pena's done to beat Nunes, there's no other fight for Pena really either because Nunes was so far above the rest.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I think the only real fight to make is a rematch there. And let's just say, for the 8 minutes 26 that we got, fuck, it was entertaining. So I'd watch it again.
Like George,
I'd watch it again.
She's one of those rare guys, I don't know, similar to like LeBron or similar to those like Brady, where you never believe they're going to lose till it happens.
Yeah.
Like I was watching, like, like she's on her back, she's got her in a submission, she's punching her in the face, and I'm like, nah, she's going to get it. Like somehow she's just going to flip it around. Like I knew it was going to happen until it was over, and I'm like, oh shit, like it actually happened. Like,
it actually happened, yeah.
Shout out to Luke Thomas, a writer on Twitter, the only person I saw that predicted it. He had a really lengthy thread about how staying on top of a division and just punching back against contender after contender is the hardest thing in sports because no one's perfect. You're going to get caught eventually. And it's been so long for Amanda that he said Pena's coming in with a fire that Amanda just... not that she doesn't have it, but she's just probably grown a little bit tired of just having to defend again and again and again.
It's the classic story, isn't it? Like, the king of the jungle forgets what it feels like to actually hunt down their food sometimes. Exactly. Like, things come to them a little bit too easy, and not that it's come to Amanda Nunes easy. There's been a lot of hard work, but unfortunately, I think we've seen the fall of a champion, and you just hope that she can get that fire back in her belly and come back and put on a really competitive rematch when she gets it.
Yeah.
So no doubt it will happen. And then look, the main event, which is something we all got the pleasure of watching. What a fight that was. We spoke about it. I'd sort of tipped Dustin to win by decision. I thought both guys are so resilient in there. Like they've both got such a willingness to like get hit, get back up and keep moving forward. And we seen Oliveira on the floor at one point there, which is very similar to what we've seen in his fight against Chandler. But he responds really well to a knockdown.
Yeah.
Responds really well. He composes himself again. He takes that minute. I think lying on the floor, using those up kicks to keep Dustin away and to compose himself and get back up was a really smart move. It gave him that couple seconds of not getting hit.
And Dustin as well, he let him up a few times. Which I thought was a weird decision.
Well, I think it's hard, right? Because Oliveira's pegged as potentially the best submission artist in the UFC. So you always run the risk. If I go to the ground with this guy, even if he is damaged, and I don't get punches in quick enough and he locks me up, I'm in trouble. Like, if you're going to go to the ground with one of those guys, it's because you're 100% confident you can put a 5-second flurry on him and end that fight. I think Dustin knew better, and for good reason, because he got subbed in round 3. But what a fantastic fight. The pace of it was incredible. It was almost hard to see it. You know, I'd tipped Dustin for submission. Shout out to Cal, my sister's partner, because he said to me many months ago, when Charles fights that top guy, just put him down for submission. He'll get it done. And I really should have.
Yeah.
And I didn't. I looked through my pendings on TAB just to see if I'd maybe put one in when the fight was announced, but I hadn't. But, you know, after that fight began, from seconds into the first round, I thought, okay, I'm wrong here. This isn't going to go 5 because the pace of the fight was so ferocious. There was just no way they were going more than 3 or 4 rounds. So credit to those guys for an incredible fight. I feel a little bit for Dustin because, you know, it is one of those things that he's been so close for so long, and I think it's heartbreaking to see him fall, and he's such a family man. But, you know, Charles has been through a journey of his own to get to the UFC and to be the champion, and credit to him for turning his life around. And
I was going to say that if Dustin was to lose to a guy, I think it's good that it's someone like Charles, someone that like he was. I think he's the oldest person to ever have his first title defense or something, like 10 or 11 years to finally get there. One of my favourite fights of the year, just the way he ended it was it was insane. The exact way he won his first ever fight.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that was just phenomenal. I couldn't believe it was happening.
And look, here's a question. We won't stew on it for too long because we're coming up to the end of that time cap. But one thing I'll put out there as a question to the fans, and maybe we'll put it in this week's poll, is the fight we would have all loved to have seen, having seen this last couple months play out. Charles Oliveira v. the Eagle, Khabib Nurmagomedov. That fight would have been cool. Both those guys, dangerous on the ground. Both those guys, super resilient in there. I think that would have been the best matchup for both of them.
I love Charles. Khabib's just a level above.
He is, but I think it would have been Khabib's best test in the UFC.
Yeah, could be.
Khabib's best test. So I'd be interested to hear what you guys think about that fight. And then just quickly before we finish combat sport, there's a few other points to touch on. One other thing I'll say about the UFC, Dominic Cruz, very good win against his counterpart, which was can't remember, but the guy that knocked out Cody Garbrandt. That's just how we'll refer to him. Dominic Cruz looked very shaky in the first after copping a few big shots. Done really well, stayed in there, super resilient. Biggest battle now, him and DC.
Yeah. And then as well, Tai Tuivasa as well got his 4th knockout in a row.
My bad. Bam Bam, our guy. Incredible, and was pretty much paying. You know, he definitely wasn't the favourite in that fight. We might have just turned to favourite, I think, in the last day. But I tell you what, he was paying about a fucking $1.10 to get Steve will do it to throw him a shoe, and a happy dad to fucking knock down post-fight. So that was cool to see. In boxing, Loma beat Commey by decision. It was just one of those Loma clinics, doing what he does best. And look, I think it's put him back in conversation for that title contention, but I guess I'll actually jump forward a little bit and skip forward to my hot take of the week here to address it. For me, the fight that George Kambosos will make, I've heard from his camp that he won't be making a decision till after the holiday period. But I'm tipping that as soon as New Year's is over, we hear conversation of him and Haney confirming that title shot here in Australia in front of 70 or 80,000 fans at Marvel Stadium.
Got to be.
And Eddie Hearn seems to be backing that. There's talks that Eddie Hearn will pay very good money to have that on DAZN. And I think the money will be right. I also think it's the right fight because the last key to unifying that division is Haney's belt.
Yeah.
So it's the right fight for George Kambosos, and really excited to see that happen. One last thing we'll talk about is the fight that I don't really want to see, but the rest of the world seems to. Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley 2 coming up. I don't even know if I've got any comments on it. I don't know what to believe. I think it's very risky for Jake Paul to take this fight a second time. I think he's got something to prove just because he's bought probably a little bit too much into everyone saying that he pays off his opponents.
Yeah.
And potentially this could be the downfall of Jake Paul, because I honestly believe that if Tyron Woodley beats Jake Paul, the hype train is dead.
Well, that's the thing. I was really excited to watch Paul Fury because finally Paul was going up against an actual boxer trying to legitimize himself.
Yeah.
No one's fault that fell through. Obviously, there's some stuff going on with Fury.
Yeah.
But to turn around and run it back with Woodley, it's a no-win thing.
Yeah.
Like, you beat Woodley, it's like, congrats, you beat this washed-up UFC dude. You've already done it before.
Yeah. Who's on a massive losing streak.
And yeah, like you don't. If he loses to an old MMA guy, he's never going to be a boxer. No boxer's going to fight this guy unless they're old and want money, because it's like, what's the point?
100%. It's just, it doesn't feel like a smart move from either camp. I can understand why Tyrone wants it. Yeah. Because for him now, his reputation's not exactly there. He just wants to get a bit of pride back, and he's going to make a bunch of money
Cash
too.
is king. That's it.
So yeah, look, that's sort of combat sports for the week. It's been crazy. I really can see things dying down a little bit now in combat sports. We're moving into that phase of the year. Outside of the Gallon Lussick card and seeing our boy Harry Garside go up against it on Wednesday evening, I believe, the 22nd of December. That's really the only fight that I'm keen to see for the rest of the year. But
I was going to ask, actually, I'll just do it on the pod. I don't know if we're doing an episode next week, but do you want to do like a mini little 15-minute preview on Zoom or something about...
Yeah, I reckon.
Just about Harry and stuff? I know you guys like...
I reckon for sure. I'm so excited for him. He looks fresh. He looks fit. He's been seeming really calm and relaxed, like he's been spending a good time with his missus and hanging out. So it's, I'm really excited for him. I think this is his moment. I've got no doubt he's going to show Australia and the world that he's a professional boxer, and he's not just an Olympic pedigree, but this guy's going to go on and be an incredible pro. So can't wait to see my boy step in there. Yeah,
like you said, last UFC card for the year. I think the next one's not till mid-Jan, so...
Well, I think we've got one coming up this week, but it's a fight night.
Yeah, I meant like an actual a numbered one.
And it's the beast, Derek Lewis. He's always fun to watch, and then Stephen Wonderboy against some other dude, can't remember, but nothing super crazy. So, yeah, we'll move on from the combat sports to a bit of the pigskin.
Look, a bit of NFL. Duff's not here, so we'll pick up his slack again.
Yeah, as we always have to do.
Typical. We've been saying it for a few weeks, but it's officially official now. Pat is back. The Chiefs are probably going to win a Super Bowl again.
He is. Paddy, my homeboy, looking pretty good again. The Chiefs are on a roll. And we sort of predicted it, didn't we, at the midweek season awards? We started to see signs of them building again as a team and building confidence. Mm-hmm. But I think we realised that we'd all been very harsh of the Chiefs we expected to see. Their record wasn't all that bad.
Yeah.
So, they're starting to look really good. I'm excited to see how the AFC plays out now with them in the fold. But no doubt, for me, they're definitely going to be close to Super Bowl contention. Yeah. You and I have both picked them and the Rams to be up there. And that's the other team to talk about this week. Back on that 2-game winning streak, the Rams beat the Cardinals, which the Cards were one of those teams tipped to go the whole way this year. They beat us in that first game of the season. It's, that rivalry between Duff and I, so we're 1-1 at the moment. Hopefully we get a trilogy at some point this season, which would be really cool in the finals. But I think we started to see confidence in the Rams camp this week. I think Odell is really fitting in nicely. he's doing those little things like he's getting those TDs. There's great chemistry between him and all the boys. And I think I seen an article this week. I can't remember who put it out. It was someone at ESPN. And I think he just put out the question, OBJ is the problem, ? I think not. And I think it shows how important good culture in a team is.
100%.
He didn't have that at Cleveland. He seems to have that now at LA. And, Matt Stafford looked really good. Our defense looked fantastic against one of the best offenses in the league. They're starting to build again. I think this year, compared to season of last, our defense was struggling a little bit. We had a few guys that we'd lost, and I think they were key components to the chemistry. But I'm just excited, man. I'm excited as a Rams fan. Also excited because they were named Australia's marketing team.
Yeah.
So the NFL basically put out a thing where they gave certain teams home territory to market outside of the USA, and the Rams got Australia. So that's really exciting. Who knows? We might end up seeing a very early season game out here, like they do in London one time. So no doubt that OBJ, Cooper Kupp, and Matty Stafford, Donald, Ramsey, those boys are really big fans of the show. We gas them up every week. They'll probably get some tickets for us, I reckon.
Well, with OBJ, though, like you said, great players are always willing to sacrifice if it means legitimate success.
Yeah.
Like in Cleveland, Odell knows they're a playoff team at most. So he's going to go in there, try and play as much as he can, get his money, get his plays. But you see it time and time again when there's teams like the Rams that are obviously got potential to go all the way. Great guys are happy to come in there, slot in, do a little bit less because they want to win. They want that ring.
Yeah.
So...
And look, I think for the Cards fans, there's actually plenty of them, because one of the other boys reached out to me this week before the game and he was giving me a bit of a shit, and his messages didn't age all that well. But I think, don't be concerned. I think the Cardinals come up against a very good Rams side this week who are feeling themselves again. And I guess part of my thoughts for this next couple of weeks moving forward, I don't know, I might have even put it in there for the hot take.
So it looks like it.
I seem to be skipping forward a little bit, but it feels like I'm rolling with it. I can honestly see three teams that were spoken about a whole lot this year, Rams, Chiefs and Cards, all to go undefeated for the rest of the regular season. I looked at their schedules this morning. They've got what seems to be easier games, and I think they're on those good runs into the finals. Like, it's actually the right time to be peaking now.
Yeah,
We're 3 weeks out from the end of regular season. You want to be peaking. You want to be in your best form, knowing that you're going into those couple finals games with all cylinders firing. So they're exciting teams. And I guess the next point on that run sheet is one that you and I spoke about a couple months back.
We called it. I think a lot of people saw it coming, but we made a very clear point to say that Urban Meyer wasn't going to last the season.
We actually had a hot take and we said halfway through the season, so we just missed it.
He went better than we thought, which is shocking, but... Yeah, so reports came out this week. There's been shit coming out all season, but this week that he was pretty toxic. He was in meetings. He was like telling his assistant coaches that they were losers and like making them stand up and tell everyone where they won. But it seemed like the real nail in the coffin was a report from the kicker that they cut, or the punter that they cut in week 3, that Meyer, after he missed a thing at training, he went up and actually kicked him while he was stretching. And then when the kicker was like, "What the fuck, don't kick me," he like reprimanded him for like speaking back to him or whatever. So he's been fired. It was funny. It was done like midnight American time. Like,
oh, really?
It looked like the Jags waited. They're like, wait till he goes to bed and then just put it out there and stuff.
Yeah, that's fucking mad. You know what? Guys like that, he's fucking scum of the earth. He's an absolute piece of shit. That, you know, he was out cheating on his wife. He was out doing stupid shit. He's disrespectful. He's done plenty of wrong things in the past by players, teams, and just the public in general.
Yeah.
I'd love to just see him not get a gig anywhere now.
I'd be surprised, because the thing is, well, a lot of people are pointing this out, NFL media and stuff. A coach like that doesn't just randomly become like that in the NFL. And that's a big problem they have with college coaches, is these guys that have these power trips. They're like coaching kids, 17, 18, 19-year-olds.
Yeah. This
is the type of shit they do, and people just put up with it because college coaches are just like that. And that's why college coaches struggle so much to cross over, because they're used to being these power positions. Then they come in and these guys are making more money than them. And if they're like, do this, whatever, they're going to be like, fuck off sort of thing. Like,
well, the thing is, you know, you can be a prick to a kid in college and he's thinking, fuck, I just need to hang on.
Yeah.
Get to draft day so I can get my money and secure the bag for my family. But once they're in the NFL, they're like, mate, if we're not seeing eye to eye, I can go get a contract elsewhere.
Exactly, yeah.
I don't need you anymore. And I think, unfortunately, that's not a shit mentality on the player. It's a shit mentality on the coach. And, you know, we're seeing the teams this year who have had really good coaching systems and setups and coaches that are respected are performing the best.
Yeah.
So there's something to be said for having great coaching staff, and Urban Meyer just doesn't fit that mould. So, you know, pull that weed out of the garden and fucking hit it with some poison.
I think, unfortunately, because of his college record, there's going to be a college that's going to give him a shot. I don't think it'll be the same level that he has coached before. Like, I think this is going to do more damage than he thought to his rep. But there'll be some lower level Div 1 team that's like, if we can get him in, we'll go for it, sort of thing, unfortunately.
Could we see Urban Meyer on Last Chance U the next season?
Don't fucking ruin that show.
Yeah, don't ruin that good show, but fuck, maybe he needs it.
Yeah, fuck. And then, to round out what started fun and then just got really sad, Rodgers owns the Bears yet again.
Yeah.
There was a moment, there was a chance. I watched this game, there was a 20-minute, maybe half hour, where the Bears were winning and they didn't have any answers, the Packers. They looked real dodgy, they were falling apart. A bunch of the Packers fans on Twitter were just melting down. I was like, we're going to do it. We're really going to do it. And once again, that little spark of hope came out of me, flew all the way over to America. The Bears saw it and went, what the fuck is that? And lost the game again.
Lost the game. Took their eye off the prize.
Just useless fucking team.
Yeah.
Every year, I don't know why I back them.
Fair to say they'll have holidays booked in 3 weeks' time.
They probably have them now, to be honest with you. They could put out fucking like tackle dummies and I wouldn't notice that much
you wouldn't
difference.
notice any difference.
So yeah, we already hit the hot take, the Rams, Chiefs and Cards all gone undefeated. I can see that happening.
Yeah.
Like we said as well, if you're a Cards fan, sometimes you get these games where it's the two powerhouse teams and it's like one team dominates or it's a disappointing game. Both those teams were firing on all cylinders.
Yeah.
Like, that was a really fun one.
It come down to that last sack with Aaron Donald.
Exactly.
You know, if he didn't get that sack, you know, we look at maybe the Cards going down the field and doing something. But, you know, fair to say it's been really exciting to watch this year build. And I'm really excited for this next 3 weeks, especially with some more time on our hands to get in front of the telly and watch games.
Just a bit of off-season stuff quickly. Not much happening, but the NRL's worst kept secret, officially official.
Yeah.
Hectic Cheese coming to join your Sydney boys.
Coming to join the Chooks in 2023, and I'm really excited for it. But, you know, it's always a little bit bittersweet with news like that because, you know, it's 2023. We've got a whole season ahead of us. And so I think it's nothing we can get too excited about this early. And the other thing for Rooster supporters is you almost hope to see a really good Brandon Smith at Melbourne this year.
Yeah.
You want to know that the money you've paid and the investment you made is a long-term thing, and he obviously had a great few seasons of past, and it'll be really interesting to see how he goes this year at Melbourne. And, you know, and you'd like to think Melbourne can put all of the, I guess, it's almost like a little bit of resentment there behind them because you'd want to see them get the most out of Cheese this year and the most as a team. And, you know, you expect to see the Melbourne Storm at the top of any competition, you know, year on year, and be almost a little bit disappointing if we didn't get to go battle with him, put him down this year and bring him into the side and give him a championship next year. So, and I think, you know, for Semi Verrills, who's going to be the guy pushed out of that equation there and looking for a contract, gives him a really good reason to play great footy this year. So, one thing I'll say on the NRL is we've spoken about the Dolphins a little bit this year. I think the YKTR boys put out this week, is anyone a little bit stressed about the Dolphins recruiting thus far? And it just doesn't seem to be going to plan.
Yeah.
I think they're going to have to really push at around the midway point of this season to find those guys who are not happy in their current setups or maybe getting pushed out of teams.
Yeah.
But I think it's fair to say that unless they sign a few marquee players, they're going to have a rough couple of first years.
It's always tough launching a new team because you got to get, like we've talked about so many times, you need guys to fully buy in and understand that you're not here to win from day one. All the coaches are going to say, at every press conference, you're going to say, we're trying to build a winning culture and stuff, but no new team is going to come in and win first year. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I think they need to buy into the idea of getting a young team.
Yeah, exactly.
I think they've been going after really big signings and big players.
I think part of it is having Bennett is you're a little bit in win now mode because you don't know how many years he has left.
That's a great point. Because you almost think as a player, well, if I'm signing a 4-year contract at the Dolphins, do I get 1 or 2 seasons with Bennett?
Yeah.
I probably don't get 4. And who knows? Bennett might coach for another 10. Like, he loves the game, but, this is a conversation. This is his last hurrah. You've got to be pretty confident. I know they're talking a lot about Kalen Ponga, and I think he'd be a great buy for them, but I think for the money that you pay for Kalen Ponga, you'd be better off getting maybe 2 or 3 more consistent middles.
Yeah.
Because I think Ponga's unbelievable, but at fullback, he's not enough of an impact player to get you consistent week-on-week wins. I think they need to be looking at the right half-back, the right hooker, and build their team around that. So, look, it'll be interesting to see what they can do throughout this season and who they can, what cherries they can pick from the tree, but time will tell.
And that's the other thing too. They're not starting until 23. I know a lot of guys are going now and getting their stuff.
Yeah.
But there would be a bunch of guys that want to play out a bit of this year, half of this year, the full season. Do you know what I mean? Like, so much can change in a year looking at situations.
100%. 100%.
I'd argue that Kalen Ponga, they'd only sign him if they're trying to get a lot of, 15 to 20-year-old girls as their, hardcore supporters. That's the
100%.
That's the fan base they're driving there.
I'm one of those.
And Brad as well.
I'm one of those, yeah. The 15 to 16-year-old girls and I, all fans of Kalen Ponga. It's funny, I was actually, just a side note, I was listening to someone talk about him the other day on a podcast, and they were literally just saying, it doesn't matter what kind of Kalen Ponga wears. If I wore it, I'd look shit. He just looks good in it. He's just a good-looking, fucking classy fella.
There's a few dudes like that, where they always look good, but it's just because of who they are, not necessarily what they're wearing.
And then you're like, fuck, I might cop that fit. Yeah. And then you cop it and you're like, why do I look like a fucking idiot? Probably a good segue though, right?
Great segue.
Fit of the week. Who we got this week?
So, I've actually done a bit of a cheat here. The one I've picked isn't a fit from this week, but it's one I saw posted this week by, I think it was Complex or someone. Okay. So, obviously, gigantic week of F1. We had the championship, Lewis versus Max, a lot of controversy there. I'm not getting into it because I didn't watch it. I don't know that much about F1. I don't really know who does, but Lewis Hamilton, always going to be solid fashionably. He pulled up in a purple utility suit, looked like a two-piece, almost like a karate suit thing, but dyed lavender purple with these mad leather boots, awesome sunnies as usual, and his braids.
He's a classy fella. I like Lewis Hamilton.
He's just very, very cool.
I really hope he has a crack again this year. I hope he doesn't call it a day.
He'll be coming in with a vengeance this year, man. This will be like the year that MJ came back, or the year where because he's going to be so angry about what happened.
You know what I have to say? I don't follow F1 all that closely, but I'm a fan of the F1 Drive to Survive series on Netflix.
I've heard a lot about that.
Which follows the season, but it also follows the back end and the business and the conversations, which is almost just as interesting, right? If not more. And I honestly believe had the result have gone the other way, I think Lewis Hamilton maybe would have hung the boots up and hung his gloves up. And I think definitely if it had gone the other way, we wouldn't have seen a very humble Max Verstappen. He would have been fucking fuming. Where I think Lewis done a really, really good job of being respectful and humble in defeat. And I'd just like to see him come back for another year. He's such a classy fella. Obviously, above all, I'd love to see our guy, Daniel Ricciardo, get a trophy.
To get back in the action.
But look, I think Lewis he's one of those guys that regardless of whether he suits up and gets back in a Mercedes or whether he just rides off into the sunset and does his thing now, he's just a great figure in sport and an absolute role model and influencer that people should look to. So congrats to Lewis Hamilton on his incredible run, which has unfortunately just been dethroned, but Max Verstappen, that guy's got a little bit of fire in the belly, let me tell you that.
Amen.
So
great note to end it on, I think.
Yeah, that's the end of the week. So we may see you guys before Christmas. We may not. That's probably a conversation that we need to have. So far, what are we? This is episode 10.
Double digits, baby. That's it.
Double digits, the 1-0. Been really exciting first 10 weeks of Blokes and Their Balls. I know there's a couple of you that are very dedicated to watching or listening to each week on week. We're really thankful for that. Obviously, the more you guys invest in the show and the more you share it around and watch it, it helps us a whole lot. And we want to connect with people and we just want to have fun in sport. Over the course of this Christmas New Year period, it's a really good opportunity for you guys as the fans of the show and the people who listen to send in any info you have on how you think we could be better, what you love about the show, what you don't like about the show. We're always all ears and all eyes, and happy to adjust and move things around where we can so that it's most enjoyable for everyone on the other side of it. So to my compadre here to my right, your left, Mr. Jed Wellsy, Undertaker Wells, really privileged to be doing this with you for 10 weeks now, and obviously to our man Duff as well. It's been a whole heap of fun and looking forward to next season.
Nah, mate, been loving it. Been awesome. Yeah, if we don't see you before then, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, all that jazz. But we might do a preview of the fight, if nothing else, so you won't have to go across the whole silly season without hearing our dulcet tones.
100%. Legend.
Let's do it.
Too good.